What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the StatGear Ausus in D2 steel and G10. I want to thank my good friends over at Neves Knives for sending this guy to me along with many others, really to help out with my quest for the perfect budget knife series, but a lot of really good examples of budget knives, and I'm excited to talk about this one. So if you're not subscribed to them, head over to Neves Knives right now. That's Neeves, I believe, and then Knives. Most people are going to be familiar with them by now. Really great people. If you guys are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, unboxings, discussion topics, top 10 stuff. I have a Knife Guy series on Sundays, and I like to do a lot of giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, if you guys have been enjoying my content for a while, or you're brand new, I do have a Patreon, and at the $3 and $5 tiers, you can get some cool stickers. I also have once a week Patreon exclusive content that you can gain access to by joining any tier, and at the same time help me reach my new goal of 90 patrons. What happens at 90 patrons? Well, much the same as what happened at 80 patrons, 70 patrons, 60 patrons. I do giveaways, and I include everybody on this giveaways, not just patrons, but subscribers and viewers as well. So there's something for everybody. If you'd like to check that out, go down in the description, find my Patreon, have a look around, and if you'd like to support me, the support would mean the world to me. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get some measurements on this guy. Overall length of the Ausus, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, coming in at a sweet 8 inches. From tip to scale, you're looking at just a hair under, maybe it's right at 3.5, and then the cutting edge is 3.25. That's just nice, clean, precision measurements. That's a sweet spot for me. Really like that. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1? Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. So you can see their blade height, handle height, similar. It's just overall length that it's different. Out up against the Spyderco PM2. Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall, so just a little bit longer there. How about up against the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at the exact same length, about 8 inches. I think this is a great size comparison. We have very, rounded and contoured versus very blocky and squared off. But there's reasons to enjoy that, and I'll explain that here. But I think this is a good size comparison because the blade lengths and the handle lengths and where you'd put your hands are very similar between the two. How about up against the Benchmade Bug Out? Benchmade Bug Out coming in at 7.5 inches overall, so a little shorter there. And last but not least, Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches. So how's the action on this guy? I love the action. This is a thumb stud deployer that's running on bearings. That's cool. We don't see that a lot. We definitely don't see it a whole lot in the budget knife world. It's very crisp. There are large thumb studs, and there's a very large cutout here. This is a kind of knife that I enjoy. I can do the reverse flick on it. That's fun. I like doing the reverse flick. Some people don't care, or some people don't know how to do it. I enjoy that. It's easy to gain access to those thumb studs if I'm outside. This is the type of knife that I would use in an outdoor work situation, and I would be thankful that I could wear gloves and still get my thumb underneath that large thumb stud. So that's really cool. It deploys very quickly, very smooth. It does have a sort of shake shut action. Just with a little bit of encouragement, it's going to come down there. Really, really nice. Has a satisfying sound as well. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at here in terms of materials? Well, you're looking at let's get a measurement of thickness on the blade here. Blade thickness, come on, let's zero out. Oh, got to get it all the way down first. There we go. Blade thickness coming in at, not super thick. I'm going to guess it's more like 120 thousandths. I think, let's take that measurement again. Yeah, I'm going to guess it's about 120 thousandths there. So not super thick. You're looking at some fairly, not really that thick steel liners, but the G10 is pretty thick. And I don't believe, well, there is a little bit of milling in there on the steel liners. Hadn't noticed that. So, weight coming in, fairly heavy, 5.29 ounces. I would imagine that is kind of, due to the overall shape of everything, the overall mass of things. Definitely the excess thickness on the G10 scales. So a lot of people, right there are going to be like, I don't know, that's going to be too heavy for me. And I can completely understand. For me, that's not a weight that I shy away from. It's like I always say, more about carry profile. So let's put it up against two knives that have kind of awkward carry profiles that nobody really seems to complain about. And see what we think here. Where's the pair of three? Thickness. Thickness on the Ausus, you can see there it is quite thick in terms of G10. So that's where it's going to be a deal breaker for some people. These are aftermarket scales. But in terms of the profile, I mean, it's basically just, it's a rectangle. You know, so the pair of 3 and PM2 are both going to be taller given the room that is made for the thumb hole. So, you know, I'll tell you this, for me, the thickness is somewhat noticeable in the pocket, but the carry profile is really good. It just sits up against the back seam of my pants, and I don't really mind it. Those of you who wear very tight pants, or you wear you know, athletic shorts or something like that, this may not be for you. But those of you who are working outside in jeans or cargo shorts or heavy pant material, you know, it's not going to be a problem. I don't see an issue there. So let's take a look at the blade. This is a very straightforward blade. I really enjoy the aesthetics of the blade. It has a flat that carries out about 85 to 90%, carrying the thickness. It's only 120 thousandths, but it looks so much thicker because it carries that out all the way to nearly all the way to the tip, and I like that. You know, the setting that I would use this knife in, like I said, is outdoor work situation, so I appreciate some more strength out there towards the tip. And then you can see there, quite a tall flat, doesn't start dropping till about 2/3 the way up the blade, and it comes down to a reasonable cutting edge. I mean, it's thicker than a lot of people I think would like, but given where I would use this knife, I would appreciate that. It's going to do just fine up against wood, cardboard, rope, plastic, whatever. No problem. My favorite part about the blade is the tumbling. We do not see a quality tumbling enough on budget knives. Usually it's a satin finish, or it's some other type. It's usually a satin finish. That's what I've grown accustomed to seeing, is essentially this Tucson here. This is the finish that we see, and that's great. It looks nice, but I like the tumbled finish because it's going to hide marks a little bit better. And to me, it looks more like a tool and less like a piece of jewelry. Not that that's an issue, but I like that. You can see the StatGear logo right there. It's nice. It doesn't bother me at all. And then on the other side, it says D2 steel. No issue with that at all. You can see the edges right here are nicely knocked down because of the tumbling, so nothing there catching my fingernail. I really like that. Love it, in fact. The thumb stud is a little tiny bit in the cutting path, so if you're going to push straight down, you are going to run into the thumb stud there. But if you cut, you know, like most of us cut, sort of there's a curvature to the slice, you're going to miss that thumb stud, so no big deal. There is a little tiny bit, there's 3 jimps back here. A little bit of jimping back here. It's not overly functional, but, you know, given the lock-in position on this knife, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could bear down on this, and it's essentially the way that the handle shape that's really going to assist in me bearing down on the knife if I needed to do that. So I don't really have a problem with that. Like I said, the knife's running on bearings. The thumb studs are excellent. They're not super sharp. In fact, they're nicely rounded off. So you can do this over and over and over again and not get tired. You do need to be aware, you know, given, you know, where this sort of the sharpening choil comes down, you need to be aware of where your finger is. The tip back here, or it's not the tip, but it's the initial part of the sharpened edge is really what contacts your finger. So you really need to make sure your finger is up close here, right behind this area, the primary choil, to make sure that the blade drops down there and not on your finger, so that you don't accidentally cut yourself, but it's good enough. Moving down to the scales, like I said, very thick G10, almost needlessly thick. They could do with, I mean, like literally half the thickness of that G10, and I think that would really help out. You know, in some ways there's a charm to the blocky, thick, chunky nature of this knife, but in other ways it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool, but it should be shaved down. It would be a lot better if it was shaved down. So I would like that. I like the blocky look on this knife, even though I've complained about it on other knives. It's kind of neat. It gives it this interesting charm, this straightforward sort of tool look, and I like that, but the G10 is just a little bit thick. Taking a look here, you can see by the way, this is nicely rounded off. Nothing, despite its blocky appearance, it does not have any sharp corners or anything like that. Time to get out my handy-dandy WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, 2 items that are down there in the description if you'd like to pick them up for yourself. They're very inexpensive and super handy. Love them. There's other stuff down there, of course. many folding knives that I love and many folding knives that lots of people have loved for a very long time. It's all categorized out for your convenience. So whatever your itch is, feel free to scratch it using my description. That might be a T9. Let's take a look at T9. We'll just kind of push it in there. Yeah, it is. It's a T9. Okay, so the pivot's a T9. I'm going to guess the handle screws are T6. Yep, T6. Okay, so we've got a T9 pivot, and we've got T6 body screws. You guys know I say the same thing in like every single episode. Just make everything T8. I'm happy with the T9. The reason I don't like T6 is because T6 and smaller bits strip out, as well as the heads on the screws. No big deal. It's never something that's stopped me from buying the knife. It's just something that it's a nitpick. We do have two body screws on the stop pin, one on each side, and then we've got two going into a really, really nice steel backspacer. I like how they did that. Just sandwiched it between the two steel liners. They've got this unobtrusive area for the lanyard hole. They could have easily made the scales just sort of exact, like they could have made this almost a perfect rectangle if they wanted to. For whatever reason, I just like the aesthetic of that. You know, it's out of the way and it looks nice. It kind of breaks up the monotony of the handle, even though the monotony of the handle is kind of what I like. So it's cool. There's a large screw holding in the other side of the pocket clip. You can see how they've done this here. I believe, yeah, this pocket clip can be switched to either left or right side. This is a truly deep carry pocket clip. I actually really, really like the pocket clip. It's just a rectangle, but it's tumbled like the other metallic parts, you know, the liners. I didn't point this out, but the liners are also tumbled. And it is truly, I mean, this thing will completely disappear in your pocket, which I think is important considering where this is going to be carried. It's also very easy to get in and out. This is a knife that is just very straightforward. It's not trying to do anything fancy. It's just a pocket clip that works. It's going to be strong enough. I like it. On the downside, there is a little bit of a bill. It's not sticking up as bad as some pocket clips do, but it might catch on something. It might bend out. The nice thing is it should be pretty easy to simply take off and bend back down. So no big deal there. It does create a little bit of a hot spot. It's not terrible. It looks like it'd be worse than it actually is. But people who are going to use this knife for long periods of cutting might notice it. You can see on the other side, it's just it's a non-adjustment side of the pivot. It looks nice. Fit and finish on this guy is just great. Everything lines up correctly. Everything is smooth and knocked down, and it looks good. There was care and attention that went into this. The knife also is perfectly centered. Locks out solid, about 50%, maybe 60% engagement on that lock. I do know that the Neves use their knives, so I don't know if it came like that or not. In any case, it's solid. This is a solid knife. Downsides, you have the T6 body screws. The thumb stud's a little bit in the way of the cutting path. Not really that big of a deal. You have to be cognizant of exactly where this comes down in your thumb, but again, not that big of a deal. Pocket clip has a little bit of a bill, but okay, you know, really not that bad. The biggest problem with this guy is the thickness of the scales. That's going to kill it for a lot of people. I mean, honestly, if the scales were a lot thinner, I could, you know, I would say it would give this knife a lot more points. It would be much easier to overlook all of those other little nitpicks. Now, that aside, another good thing about this knife is the price. This knife runs roughly about $50. Like I said, there'll be a link down in the description if you want to pick this knife up for yourself. It does come in different colors. I think there's an all black blade. There's like a tan G10 one, maybe some other stuff. $50 is an excellent price for this. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. The build quality is there. In fact, a lot of the little refinements, you know, it looks straightforward. It looks like a blocky, clunky tool, but then you get up close and you're like, you know, I kind of like the look. It's almost a wood grain G10. I kind of like the look of things. I like the thumb studs. I like the tumbling. I mean, it's neat. It's cool. It's stylish. And at the same time, it's just a tool. It's a straightforward tool. And I really appreciate that. I like simplicity. The best thing they could do to improve this knife is simply bring the thickness of those scales down a little bit, but this is still a very recommendable knife. So it's going to go on my Cheap Knives I Like playlist, and it's also going to go on my Most Recommended Knives playlist. Absolutely. Thanks again, Neves Knives, for letting me take a look. Absolutely check them out. And like I said, if you'd like to join my Patreon, check out the link down in the description and have a look around. That's going to be pretty much it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed this upload, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.